May 8, 1942. The Coral Sea, Southwest Pacific. The flight deck of USS Yorktown is slick with oil, seawater, and blood. Smoke still drifts low over the carrier, stinging eyes and burning lungs. Somewhere below, steel groans as the ship shudders, wounded, but stubbornly afloat. Aviation machinists mate second-class James. Red Callahan grips the railing near the island, knuckles white. He's been awake for nearly 30 hours. His ears are still ringing from bomb blasts and the scream of diving aircraft. When the Japanese dive bombers came out of the sun that morning, it felt like the sky itself had turned hostile. He watches damage control teams disappear into the smoke, men moving fast, faces blackened, carrying hoses, axes, shoring timber. No one is talking much. They don't need to. Yorktown has been hit. A bomb punched through the flight deck, detonating deep inside the ship. Fires broke out in the hangar deck. Fuel lines ruptured. Planes burned where they sat, their aluminum frames twisting in the heat. For a moment, it looked like the carrier might join the long list of ships already claimed by the Pacific. But she didn't. Now, as dusk settles over the Coral Sea, Yorktown still rides the waves. Scarred. Slowed. Alive. Callahan looks out, where the deck crew once ran aircraft like clockwork. Now its chaos held barely in check. The smell of burning aviation fuel mixes with salt air. Somewhere, a wounded sailor cries out, then goes quiet. Word spreads quickly among the crew, passed in fragments, half heard and half believed. "We got lucky. Could have been worse. She'll make it." The battle itself, what history will later call the Battle of the Coral Sea, is over. Both sides have taken losses. The Japanese have sunk an American carrier. The Americans have sunk one of theirs. Strategically, it's a draw. Psychologically, it's something else entirely. For the first time, the Japanese advance has been checked. But aboard Yorktown, strategy feels far away. All that matters is whether the ship can stay afloat long enough to get home. The carrier limps south at reduced speed, escorted by cruisers and destroyers that scan the horizon for submarines. Below decks, damage control never stops. Men sleep where they fall, if they sleep at all. Pumps run constantly. Welders spark in the dim light. Temporary patches are slapped over twisted steel, not to make the ship whole, but to keep her alive. When Yorktown finally reaches Pearl Harbor days later, she looks like a ghost ship. Her flight deck is scarred and buckled. Scorch marks streak her island. The proud gray hull bears the marks of near death. Sailors line the rails as she enters the harbor, exhausted, grim, quietly proud. For the men who step onto the pier, there is an unspoken assumption. This ship is done. In peacetime, repairs like this would take months. A full overhaul, dry dock, replacement steel, careful inspections. Everyone knows the drill. Yorktown has been in heavy combat. She's earned a long stay in the yards. But peacetime rules no longer apply. Waiting at Pearl Harbor is Admiral Chester Nimitz, commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. He doesn't look at Yorktown with sympathy. He looks at her like a desperate man looks at a lifeline. Intelligence reports have been piling up on his desk. Intercepts. Reconnaissance. Patterns emerging from the noise. The Japanese are planning something big. Midway. A tiny atoll in the Central Pacific. An outpost. A trap. Nimitz knows the Japanese are coming. He knows roughly when. And he knows something even more alarming. He doesn't have enough carriers. One is gone at Coral Sea. Another is damaged. Only 2 are fully operational in the Pacific. Without Yorktown, the numbers don't work. So Nimitz makes a decision that ripples through the shipyard like an electric shock. Yorktown will not get months. She will get days. At Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard, Foremen gather around damage reports. Engineers crawl through twisted compartments with flashlights and clipboards. Welders study fractured beams. Electricians trace severed cables. Everywhere, the same quiet calculation is being made. What can be fixed fast? What can be patched? What can be ignored for now? The order is simple and terrifying. Make her fight ready. Not perfect. Not safe by peacetime standards. Just good enough to launch planes and take hits. 72 hours. Around the clock, repair crews swarm the carrier. Thousands of workers flood aboard. Steel plates are cut, shaped, and welded into place without ceremony. Burnout wiring is bypassed. Damaged compartments are sealed off and written off. Paint is slapped over scorch marks, not to make the ship pretty, but to hide her wounds from enemy eyes. Sailors, who should be resting, are pulled back aboard to help. They pass tools. All debris. Watch in disbelief as entire sections of the ship are rebuilt in what feels like a single, endless night. Callahan returns to the flight deck and barely recognizes it. Where there was wreckage, there is steel. Where there was fire, there is motion. Where there was despair, there is urgency. No one says it out loud, but everyone feels it. This ship is being rushed back into hell. And somewhere across the Pacific, Japanese intelligence officers are confidently writing reports that say USS Yorktown was sunk at Coral Sea. They have no idea what is happening in Pearl Harbor. They have no idea that the carrier they buried is about to come back. May 27, 1942. Pearl Harbor, territory of Hawaii. The sun hasn't risen yet, but USS Yorktown is already alive with motion. Floodlights wash the carrier in harsh white glare, turning her scarred hull into a stage where men move like shadows against steel. The air rings with the sound of hammers, welding torches, shouted orders, and the constant whine of generators straining past their limits. Lieutenant Commander William Bull Halsey Jr. isn't here. He's sick back in the States, but his aggressive spirit seems to hover over the deck. In his place, Captain Elliot Buckmaster walks the ship with a clipboard tucked under his arm, jaw tight, eyes sharp. He stops often, asks pointed questions, listens carefully, then moves on. There's no room for speeches. Every man already understands what's at stake. Down in the hangar deck, civilian shipyard workers and Navy sailors work shoulder to shoulder, sweat soaking their shirts despite the early hour. Many of the civilians haven't slept properly in days. Some haven't gone home at all. They grab meals wherever they can, cold coffee, sandwiches eaten one-handed, while welding seams or bolting steel plates into place. One foreman, a stocky man named Charles McKenna, runs a hand over a newly patched section of bulkhead and shakes his head. In any other year, this wouldn't pass inspection. But inspections are luxuries of peace. Good enough, he mutters. It has to be. The damage from Coral Sea is worse up close than it looked from a distance. Structural beams are warped. Electrical systems are a mess of burned insulation and temporary reroutes. Elevators that once carried aircraft smoothly between decks now groan and hesitate, coaxed back to life with improvised fixes. In one compartment, a team argues over whether a damaged boiler can be trusted. There isn't time to replace it. They reinforce it, pray it holds, and move on. Above them, the flight deck is a hive of controlled chaos. Crews strip and repair aircraft brought in from shore to replace those lost in combat. Fresh Wildcats and Dauntless dive bombers are craned aboard and lashed down. Mechanics swarm over them, checking engines, arming mechanisms, fuel lines. Aviation machinists make Callahan watches a Dauntless roll into position and feels a strange mix of relief and dread. The deck looks whole again, almost normal, but he knows better. He's walked the patched corridors. He's seen the sealed-off compartments marked with chalk. This ship is holding together on willpower and welds. At fleet headquarters, Admiral Nimitz receives constant updates. He doesn't hover over the yards, doesn't interfere. He's made his decision. Now he lets the men work. Time presses in on everyone. Intelligence estimates put the Japanese strike force less than 2 weeks from Midway. There will be no second chance. If Yorktown misses this fight, she may miss the war's turning point entirely. As the hours blur together, exhaustion sets in. Men nod off standing up, then jerk awake when a supervisor shouts or a tool clatters to the deck. Fingers are burned. Hands are cut. Nobody stops for long. At one point, a welder collapses from heat and fatigue. 2 sailors drag him aside, give him water, and another man takes his place without a word. By the second night, the carrier's outline begins to look deceptively intact. Fresh paint hides bomb scars. Twisted metal is straightened just enough to pass at a glance. From a distance, Yorktown could almost pass for undamaged. That illusion is intentional. The Japanese believe she's gone. If enemy reconnaissance spots her, the deception must hold for at least a moment longer. On May 29th, Captain Buckmaster gathers his officers in the wardroom. The mood is subdued. Everyone here understands the truth. Yorktown is not fully repaired. She is functional. Barely. Buckmaster speaks plainly. "We're going back out," he says. "We'll fight with what we've got. Damage control will do the rest." No one objects. No one asks for clarification. By the morning of May 30th, the order comes down. Yorktown is ready. Tugs ease her away from the pier. Lines are cast off. As the carrier moves out of Pearl Harbor, sailors line the rails again, this time watching the island recede, not knowing if they'll ever see it again. Callahan grips the railing and looks back at the shipyard where men are still standing among sparks and steel, waving caps in tired salute. He feels something tighten in his chest. They did the impossible. Now it's up to Yorktown to justify it. Out in the Pacific, Japanese planners finalize their Midway operation with calm confidence. Their reports tell them the Americans have 2 operational carriers. They plan accordingly. They have no idea a third one is steaming toward them. A ship they believe is already on the ocean floor. June 3, 1942. North Pacific Ocean, northeast of Midway Atoll. The sea is gray and restless, rolling beneath USS Yorktown in long, uneven swells. A low overcast presses down on the task force, muting sound and flattening the horizon into a dull, endless smear. For the men on deck, it feels like the calm before something enormous breaks loose. Aviation machinists make Callahan stands beside a parked Wildcat fighter, listening to the engine idle during a test run. The sound is steady, good. He rests a hand on the fuselage, feeling the vibration hum through the metal. The plane is ready. The ship, he knows, is ready in a very different way. Below him, the scars of Coral Sea are still there, hidden under paint and patchwork steel. Damage control teams remain at heightened alert, stationed near vulnerable compartments, with hoses charged and shoring timber stacked. Everyone knows the truth. If Yorktown takes another serious hit, there will be no miracle repair this time. But for now, she steams at full speed, keeping station with USS Enterprise and USS Hornet, 3 American carriers. A fact the Japanese do not expect. Hundreds of miles away, Japanese reconnaissance planes fan out across the ocean, searching for the American fleet. Their pilots have orders to confirm what intelligence already knows: the U.S. Navy is weakened. 1 carrier was sunk at Coral Sea. Another was damaged. Only 2 should remain. When a scout plane finally spots the American task force, the report crackles back through Japanese command channels. "Enemy force sighted. Appears to include 3 carriers." The words hang in the air. On the flagship of the Japanese carrier force, Officers exchange glances. Someone checks the report again. Someone else asks for confirmation. It has to be a mistake. Their intelligence is solid. Yorktown was sunk. The Americans cannot have 3 carriers. But there is a ghost ship, sailing where it shouldn't exist. Admiral Isoroka Yamamoto's carefully balanced plan begins to wobble. His strike force was designed to overwhelm 2 American carriers, not 3. Aircraft allocations, timing, reserves, everything is suddenly off by a carrier-sized margin. And on Yorktown, the crew has no idea just how much damage their mere presence has already done. Before dawn on June 4th, alarms sound across the ship. General quarters. Red lights glow below decks. Sailors move quickly to their stations, muscle memory overriding fear and fatigue. Callahan straps on his helmet and goggles, helping guide fighters into position. The deck crew moves with practiced efficiency, even as the ship pitches beneath them. Engines roar. Propellers blur into invisibility. This is it. Above them, the sky is beginning to lighten. Somewhere beyond the horizon, Japanese carriers are launching their own aircraft, armed for the destruction of Midway. When Yorktown's planes lift off the deck, one after another, the carrier feels momentarily lighter, as if exhaling. Pilots wave as they pass over the bow, then vanish into the cloud cover. The waiting begins. Minutes stretch into hours. Reports filter in, fragmented, incomplete. Japanese planes have struck Midway. Damage is heavy, but the island is still fighting. American torpedo squadrons are en route toward the enemy carriers. Then, just before noon, the war comes back to Yorktown. Radar contacts appear. Fast. Closing. Enemy aircraft inbound. The sky erupts. Japanese dive bombers break through the clouds, screaming downward with a sound that seems to tear at the air itself. Anti-aircraft guns open fire, black bursts dotting the sky. Tracers arc upward in brilliant lines. Callahan dives for cover as bombs fall. One hits. The explosion slams through the ship, throwing men to the deck. Another follows. And another. The flight deck buckles. Fires break out. Smoke pours skyward. Yorktown shudders, wounded again. Damage control teams race into the chaos, fighting fires, flooding compartments to counter the list. The carrier slows, then stops, dead in the water. For a moment, it feels like Coral Sea all over again, but worse. Then comes the torpedo attack. Japanese torpedo bombers skim low over the waves, releasing their weapons in deadly runs. 2 torpedoes slam into Yorktown's port side. The ship lurches violently. Power fails. Lights go out. Below decks, water floods in. The list increases. The order comes to prepare to abandon ship. Callahan helps pass word along the deck, his heart pounding. He looks at the burning wreckage around him and feels the cold certainty that this is the end. No 72-hour repair. No second miracle. And yet, slowly, incredibly, Yorktown refuses to die. Damage control works in near darkness, sealing compartments, counterflooding, restoring partial power. After hours of relentless effort, the list stabilizes. The fires are brought under control. By late afternoon, Yorktown is still afloat. The crew watches in stunned silence as American dive bombers return overhead, not to land, but to head toward Enterprise and Hornet. The fight is still on. The battle is turning. Unbeknownst to them, American dive bombers have just annihilated the core of Japan's carrier force. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, 3 carriers burning. And all of it began with a ship that was never supposed to be there. June 4th, 1942. Late afternoon. North Pacific Ocean. Smoke still pours from USS Yorktown, rising in a dark column that can be seen for miles. The carrier drifts slowly, her engine silent, her deck scarred and twisted. To the men aboard, it feels like standing on the edge of a cliff that hasn't quite given way. Aviation machinists make Callahan sits with his back against a bulkhead near the island, helmet off, face streaked with sweat and soot. His ears ring. His hands shake as the adrenaline finally bleeds away. Around him, sailors move cautiously, stepping over debris, checking on the wounded, murmuring to one another in low voices. They've been hit hard. Harder than anyone pretends. Below decks, compartments are flooded and sealed. Temporary power is restored in fits and starts. Pumps work continuously to keep the ship upright. The list has been reduced, but only just. Every wave that slaps against the hull feels like a question mark. Captain Elliot Buckmaster stands on the bridge, binoculars pressed to his eyes. He scans the horizon, watching for any sign of renewed attack. The Japanese are wounded now, but wounded enemies can still be deadly. A report reaches him. American dive bombers have destroyed 3 Japanese carriers. A 4th, Hiryu, was responsible for Yorktown's punishment and is still operational. Buckmaster closes his eyes briefly. The battle is not over. Damage control officers present their assessments. Yorktown can't make speed. She can't launch or recover aircraft. But she's afloat. If she can be taken under tow, she might yet be saved. The decision is made to try. As evening approaches, the destroyer USS Hammond pulls alongside Yorktown. Lines pass carefully across the water. The smaller ship comes in close, almost touching, her crew exposed and vulnerable as they work to supply pumps and power to the crippled carrier. Callahan watches the destroyer from the deck, struck by the quiet courage of the men below. Hammond is taking a risk just by being there, hovering near a damaged carrier in waters where enemy submarines could be lurking. But no one says no. Through the night, the combined crews fight to save Yorktown. Pumps thrum. Flooded compartments are drained inch by inch. The carrier begins to regain a fragile sense of balance. There is hope. On the morning of June 5th, the Pacific is eerily calm. The smoke thins. The sky clears. For the first time in days, the ocean looks almost peaceful. Then, without warning, the water erupts. A massive explosion tears through the sea beneath Hammond. The destroyer is lifted violently out of the water, her keel broken by a Japanese submarine torpedo. The blast slams into Yorktown as well, sending shockwaves through her already battered hull. Callahan is thrown to the deck, his breath ripped from his lungs. When he scrambles back to his feet, he sees Hammond breaking in two, sailors leaping into the water as the ship sinks in minutes. The torpedo's secondary explosion, Hammond's own depth charges detonating, pounds Yorktown mercilessly. Flooding increases. Compartments that had been secured are torn open again. The list worsens. This time, there is no denying it. Yorktown is dying. Captain Buckmaster gives the order to abandon ship. Calmly, clearly, no panic. Men move to their stations, helping the wounded, passing life jackets, climbing down nets into the cold Pacific. Callahan hesitates at the rail, looking back at the ship that carried him through Coral Sea, through the impossible repairs, through Midway itself. The deck is quiet now. Too quiet. He slides down into the water and swims clear. From the sea, the sailors watch as Yorktown remains afloat through the night, stubborn even in death. She does not sink quickly. She lingers, as if unwilling to let go of the war just yet. Finally, on the morning of June 7, 1942, USS Yorktown rolls onto her side and disappears beneath the waves. The ocean closes over her. She is gone. But the battle she helped win is over too. For Japanese carriers are lost. Their experienced aircrews are gone. The momentum of the Pacific War has shifted. And Japanese intelligence officers, reviewing their shattered plans, finally understand the truth. The carrier they thought they had sunk came back. She fought. She absorbed blows meant for others. And by doing so, she changed the course of the war.